guys, welcome back to my watercolor channel. Today I paint a fierce kitty in a daisy field. What I have done first was basically covering the daisies with some masking fluid. It's much easier and the flowers are required to stay quite white. Then as well as the whiskers. My first color that I used was basically purple, so my favorite blue color is phthalo blue, and I mixed it with some rose madden and put it at the top of the kitty. Then I add some warm colors such as raw sienna and then a little bit of burnt amber. I try to keep the first layer quite light so I can add later on more paint and different colors, but at the moment I really want to keep it light. And then I continue with the ears and have some more of a grayish color. I believe it's some of the purple mixed with Payne's gray, and then adding some really pure phthalo blue into the ears. So at the moment the kitty is quite colorful, and then I continue with the rest of the body, just spreading the paint and really pressing the brush onto the paper. And here I'm using like a medium-sized brush because my painting is not that big, or my little kitty here is not that big in total. And then adding here some of the grayish colors that I mixed with the purple, so Payne's gray with the purple, and then a bit stronger, and still pressing the brush down so onto the rest of the body, although I am not gonna be that precise with the rest of the bodies. And then adding some of a greenish color, so it's kind of like a phthalo blue with a little bit of lemon yellow, and then spreading it with a big brush, and here as well pressing the brush very tightly to the paper, and then adding more of a really greenish, bright greenish color, so I added here a lot of lemon yellow to the background. And then having like a variety between the different greens, so it's not that boring, as well as adding some yellow ochre at the top, so it's balancing a little bit with the nose. And then at the bottom more of the really bright green and some of the dark green, so where the daisies are gonna be, and everything is like mixing together because the painting is slightly tilted. Now I continue with the face of the kitty. So the first layer has basically dried, and I add the same purple that I have used before, and then spreading it really around the face structures, and then adding more of the yellow ochre, so nothing mixing together, and they aren't that boring color combinations. A little bit underneath the neck and then on the cheeks. I think the most challenging task in this painting is basically just the drawing of the kitty, so I had to try it several times. So my kitty here is apparently very terrified of the little flowers, which are daisies, and it fits really well right now as we have summer, or middle of the summer, as here in North Finland the summers are really short. And at the bottom I'm adding more of a dark colors, so I start kind of to build up more of the darker layer and having some brownish colors, so using some zebra and mixed with some of the bluish colors and a little bit reddish, and then spreading it slightly by pressing the brush onto the paper. I continue with the kitty's face structure, so now adding more of the fur, and here already the other layer has dried, I did not want to make it too much relying on the wet technique, so I do wait until some of the layers have dried. So meanwhile I have a cup of coffee or do something else. Mostly I leave it dry quite naturally. And then here more of the fur, so it's much stronger. So now it's really just detailed work and adding paints to emphasize the different structures. So my kitty here has a lot of stripes, which is really good for a painting because then you can use your darker colors and it's really nice emphasizing the head of the kitty. And underneath, so a little bit darker colors, also making use of some bluish colors as well. So I still having my phthalic blue but adding more paints gray so it looks a bit more darker, and then underneath as well, so you can see that the head of the kitty is much, it's tilted a little bit, resting on the rest of the body, shying away from the very threatening daisies. But with my painting I proceed quite slowly because I look occasionally at my reference picture and what the lines structures look like, where is the fur going, so you really have to have an idea where the fur leads to and how is it bending basically, so it kind of creates a roundness and it looks a little bit more lifelike instead very two-dimensional. And this kind of paintings I really like to do, but they take a lot of time and many breaks to step aside and have a look what's going on. And then it is quite challenging not to overpaint and kind of know when to stop, so you have those white bits and then at some point I get a bit panicking, or do I need to add more paint, and then I overpaint the highlights and it might not look as well, but I really enjoy do this kitty. So I wait till the layers have dried and then add more colors, basically the same ones as I have used before, so there's not a really great palette. And having here some more yellow ochre and some burnt umber, and to make the burnt umber or yellow ochre even mixed with some of an indigo blue, or even burnt umber mixed with some indigo blue gives a really nice darker brown. Then I have here the tongue, which is basically just adding some of the rose madden and then adding the same purpose I have used before at the back of the tongue. Now for the eyes I have used basically some blue color, so some phthalo blue, very light layer, and here I'm already adding some of the black color around the eyes after the first layer has dried. So I'm very careful here because I wanted to keep the fear in the eyes, which means that the eyes have to be bulging out a little bit, but I'm not quite sure if I have succeeded in my drawing. So I use here a little bit of a thinner brush and to give some color around the eyes, and then also on the really cute nose, and then as well as into the mouth, because those areas are basically the darkest areas. I continue to add some green, so I made more green out of the blue and some lemon yellow, as well as having some lighter greens there, and then just adding some grass and having some brush strokes, which kind of like pressing and lifting. And I leave space in between, so this is quite important because I don't want that it looked too crowded. Although even on the reference picture there might be loads of grass, I tend not to add as much because less is more. And then adding more darker layer of dull blue into the eyes, and very carefully so the highlights are still to be seen. And this kitty has incredibly beautiful blue eyes. And then continue with the second eye as well. So just like really in a round shape so that the eye both remain quite round and not just overpaint. And then adding around the whiskers those darker spots, so using a brownish color, and as well in the right direction, so more around rather than really a straight line, and then having really enough of paint even on the smaller brush so it's not kind of scratching the paper. And then let's see here just more of a detailed work, so emphasizing the stripes or the fur on the kitty as well as underneath the eyes, so really adding now the last dark layers. I think my kitty is partly terrified and happy to seeing this daisies, so. And then at the top too, having darker stripes, so those very characteristic eyebrows of the kitty coming out much better. Then more to this side, so the kitties have really like a eyeliner, and then going from this kitty has nice stripes going from the eye towards the side towards the cheek. So I add there more of the dark colors as well, and then here more of the eyebrows that it really comes out. And here you can see that the other layers are nicely coming through. Around the nose, more of the brownish yellow ochre color, and then spreading it with water so it does not leave that many hard edges. Then I continue with the background, because the sides of the kitty I wanted to leave relatively untouched whitish, especially on the left side. So I add more of the greenish colors around. Then I continue with the eye. So here still a darker layer of, now it's phthalo blue and indigo blue mixed together and added to the eyeball as well as to the nose. I have taken off the masking fluid, and then I just add some deep yellow to the center of the flowers, so my flowers are quite showing in different directions, and then adding a little bit of orange as well, so it's not so boring, and with a very thin brush. I thought then a little bit emphasizing the different petals as well of the flowers, so adding here a bit darker color, either of a gray color which is on the kitty, or more of the greenish colors around, while in the middle of the petals I add a very light layer of phthalo blue as well. Now the last step is basically still the eyes, and just adding the pupils and a little bit to the side, so more emphasizing the around the eye with very thin brush. And a little bit more of the eyebrows, so it looks a little bit too straight, and on the nose, and as well into the mouth, because it looks quite pale. Then adding some more dark gloss, but I was not very happy how the reflection looked in the eye, so I used some gouache, white gouache, and I add here more of the reflection, and it looks much more white. Okay, that was it. A little bit longer video, but thank you for watching, and remember to subscribe. Bye!